Your clients hire you because they believe that you can help them get a certain outcome, help them get a certain desire, right? So then the question we've got to ask ourselves is, how do we even have more impact with those people? How do we add more value? Because if you add more value, you become indispensable. Hi, this is Coach Joe Lucas, and welcome to the Magellan Network Show. My goal inside of this communication, this show, is to share with you my nearly 30 years of coaching some of the most successful financial advisors in North America. We're going to be talking about strategies, syntaxes. We're going to bring guests on from time to time, and I'm going to share with you what's working now. So think of this show as sort of like a little one-on-one kind of mini coaching cast, if you like, where we're going to be going in depth from time to time on strategies to help you grow your business, get more effective, become more efficient, find balance in your time management, grow your business, and quite frankly, whatever else is going on in the world today. So before we get to today's episode, I'd love for you to do a couple things for me. Number one, make sure that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're doing the audio, make sure that you give us a review on whether it's Spotify or Apple. We'd really appreciate that. And quite frankly, that does help. It does matter when you rate things and like things and subscribe to things. It helps us get the word out to more of the industry. And lastly, I have a very special gift for you. Go to MagellanNetwork.net, so one word, MagellanNetwork.net, and I have for you a complimentary membership, 100% gratis, where you can tap into about between 50 and 75 hours of masterclasses, forms, tools, templates, and strategies. So please go ahead and make sure you go ahead and get that claimed. Smash the like button and subscribe. And please go ahead and leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you're on. And now, let's get to this week's episode. Hi, it's your Coach Joe Lucas, and welcome to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Today, what I want to talk about with our Magellan Network family, and then those that watch us on YouTube and listen to us on our podcast, is really about the difference between focusing on having impact with people versus just making money. It's very interesting. And look, and I understand when you start out as an advisor, look, you got to make money, right? It's called survival, right? And so I totally get that. But the sooner you can adopt a mindset of impact and service and helping and adding massive value, right? And really looking to be the best at what you do, right? Not the biggest, but the best. There's a different approach when you deal with people. Now, I'm not getting into names or anything like that, but in my career, I've talked to thousands of advisors. And recently, I got referred to an advisor. We were considering working together. And I've got this process I take people through, intro meeting, then a little bit of a consultation, and then a game plan. And it's really kind of my vetting process, right? And what I'm looking for inside of those conversations is how they view their clients, how they view kind of, their outcomes. And it kind of tells me how they're wired, right? And I think it's really important. So this advisor is already successful. They have appeared on, various stages at various conferences, and, they're successful. There's no question. Economically successful, not a problem, right? So definitely there, but looking to go to that next level, and that's why they got referred to me. But as I talk to them and I listen to, everything, it's all about, well, I've got these clients and everything's on autopilot, and I make, this kind of money, and I don't have to work that hard. I want to scale that up. And it almost felt to me like the clients were just like a vehicle for their own economic success. Like, I didn't hear a lot about touch base calls, caring about them. Like it just never resonated. And there was ample opportunity for that to come out. Just so everybody's on the same page on that. Okay. Really important. And again, is there anything wrong? So the next question is, Joe, is there anything wrong with that? I mean, there's nothing illegal about it. But I guess the question becomes, and this person's probably in their early 40s. So fast forward 20 years. Are they going to continue to have economic success? Yeah, they're committed and they're a driver, and I know they will. But are they going to be fulfilled? Is the work they're doing going to give them meaning? Is it going to matter? And I will tell you, it's kind of a full circle. So now we're going to get into some deep stuff with me. So when I started my coaching career over 30 years ago, I was all about impact. Because my belief was, well, if I have impact, then the money will follow. And it did, to a certain degree. Maybe sustainable. And then about 5-6 years ago, I kind of said, okay, I want to still have impact, but I want to scale. So my brain is like, well, how do I impact more people? How do I impact more advisors, right? And so we started that trail. That's why birth of Magellan Network was part of that recipe for me. And then recently, going back to the old conversation, which is, how do I even have more impact? So one of the questions you got to ask yourself as an advisor, as a leader, as somebody, like my clients put their trust in me, their faith in me, that I can help them get what they want and what they desire. Your clients hire you because they believe that you can help them get a certain outcome, help them get a certain desire, right? So then the question we've got to ask ourselves is, how do we even have more impact with those people? How do we add more value? Because if you add more value, you become indispensable, right? In my entire career, I can think of maybe a handful of times, but I mean like an absolute handful of times, where a advisory client will call one of my clients up and say, hey, I think you're contacting me too much. You don't have to call as often. You don't have to check in. It's rare, right? And we all know the number one reason a client will leave an advisor, the number one reason, and it's not like number two is close, is that the client feels like the advisor doesn't care about them anymore. They just don't. Which is totally solvable by just some strategies. It's not rocket science here, right? And I know some of you sit there and say, well, Joe, but I'm scaling an empire. I'm doing this, I've got a high level ensemble. I've got junior advisors, servicing advisors. I've taken clients, I've given them to those advisors to be the point of contact. Great. But they have somebody that cares about them. Hi, Coach Joe Lukacs here, and I'm just breaking here for a moment just to do a couple quick reminders. Number one, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast. In addition, please leave a comment or a review. Those things really, really matter. And share this episode with 3 of your colleagues inside the financial services space. And lastly, make sure that you go ahead and claim your free membership inside of Magellan Network. Now back to this week's episode. In fact, you have 2 people now that care about them, right? They have the servicing or junior advisor. That person cares about them, right? Because that's the point of contact. That's the leverage for you, and I understand that. But you cannot disappear. You can't go hide off and be the empire builder. You still have, in my opinion, a moral and ethical obligation to have some sort of relationship with that person. It could be a one-to-many. It could be doing a Friday video. It could be hosting a happy hour and shaking their hand. It could be an educational thing that they come to. It doesn't matter, but you cannot abandon those relationships. Doing it is really arrogant. And you can have your cake and eat it too if it's structured properly. So the beautiful thing about this is it's not a dead end. You just have to think differently. And instead of having impact one-to-one, right? How do I impact many? My premise of Magellan Network was I just physically can't work with that many advisors one-on-one. Just there's an absolute limit, and it's shrinking every year. But I have a vehicle now I can impact thousands of advisors, right? Because then everything else falls into place. So what I want you to think about this Father's Day weekend, happy Father's Day to you dads, is what would happen to your results? What would happen, in other words, to your happiness, your joy, your fulfillment, and how much it would reduce your stress? Instead of measuring yourself versus other advisors, which is industry is notorious for, and let me tell you something, I absolutely hate it. Absolutely hate it. For every advisor inspired, it crushes 5. It's a terrible concept. Why don't we focus on being the best that we can be? Why don't we focus on having the maximum impact with our relationships? And let's not get caught up in am I going to make this list or that list? Am I going to get on this stage or that stage? Why don't we go to bed at night knowing that we've done the best we can absolutely do for our clients who entrust us with one of the 3 most important elements of their life. There's their physical well-being, their spiritual and mental well-being, and then there's their economic well-being. You're one of the big 3, my friends. Honor that. Do not sit there and diminish that. Step into it, lean into it. Make it a really important part. Make it your mission. When I decided that, not too long ago that I felt like I got a little too mercenary. And I wanted to get back to what makes me happy about who I am, which is I'm a giver. I care. I want to have impact. I want to have deep, lifelong relationships. There's something very soothing about that concept. See, and this is not a knock, I just have a different approach. Most of my personal clients have been with me 10, 15, 20 years. Most coaches are like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Now, that'd be a lot easier for me mentally and emotionally, right? Not to care, right? Hey, sorry, man. Hey, sorry. Make sure you pay. To care about other people, you're going to be making withdrawals out of your emotional and spiritual bank. Because if you care about people, when they're hurting, you hurt a little bit too. When they're stressed, you're a little stressed too. So there's a price to pay for that. But I think if you're playing this game the way that I know you're capable of playing, guess what? You are compensated very well. Very well. Social workers, and I'm going to use them specifically for a moment. I don't know, but you guys can Google it in your state because it varies state to state. But social workers deal with some very heavy stuff. Mentally draining, spiritually crushing stuff. They make less than probably your assistant does a year. And they do heavy lifting. Okay? Now, I'm not saying you need to go to that extreme or to those depths, but I'm going to give you proper contrast on that, right? I've got some core beliefs, right? And one of my core beliefs is the more people you can impact in a very positive manner and the deeper you can make that impact, that you'll be rewarded. Economically, socially, fulfillment. I mean, check all the boxes, right? And I just think that sometimes in this game, we forget that. Because we're after the latest AI tool. Or we're trying to figure out the next marketing hack. Some advisors are trying to figure out how to not have deep client relationships and kind of like yeah, you could do that, man, but you're a service at that point, and just understand there's no relational capital there. Remember, the value of your practice really, because we operate in a goodwill game. The multiples and enterprise value, stuff like that is still, when you break it down, it's still based on an at-will relationship between a client and an advisor. At will, which is goodwill. Okay? So ultimately, relational capital is what we trade in. I have no long-term agreements with my clients. Every one of my clients, every one personally, is on a month-to-month with me. Why? Because do you have guarantees with your clients? Right? Like, I never want to rest on my laurels. I've been doing this for 30 years. I can kick this sucker into autopilot if I wanted to. I choose not to, because I love it. It's my purpose in life. This is my mission. To make every one of you better at what you do, better at this game. And I just want to draw upon and shine a little light on this in this episode, okay? That let's make sure that we're making tons of money, and that way you can reinvest it in yourselves, charitable gifting, take care of your family, enjoy life. Money's a resource. Totally get that. But make sure you're having maximum impact with the people that your clients, your team, your family, your friends, and your community. Be a leader. Don't just make some money. Thanks for watching and listening to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Hey, if any of this resonated with you, I invite you to come to MagellanNetwork.net, and we have a powerful group coaching community of like-minded advisors. Come in for a trial. You and I will have a one-on-one conversation. Let's see if I can help elevate your game both personally and professionally.